The first encounter I had was at a friend's house when I was like 10, and it honestly could have been something explainable, like a reflection or possibly a laser pointer. I remember there were 2 boys living in the house behind my friends, but it was late at night and quite creepy seeing a green dot suddenly move around in the darkness of the bedroom. Second encounter was on a camping trip with some friends up in the White Mountains of Arizona, just a few years ago. We didn't have a decent tent at the time, so I had resorted to sleeping in the back of the car on a makeshift bed of blankets and pillows. I slept like a log for the majority of the night, but had awoken around 2 to 3 in the morning from a very vivid dream. I'm unsure if the dream details had anything to do with what I saw, but let me explain briefly what it was about. The dream was definitely out of the ordinary for me since I'm typically a deep sleeper and don't tend to remember them when I wake up. It took place in my friend's apartment, but there wasn't anything in the apartment besides their bed. The apartment was dark and had no lights on. I felt a presence, but nothing or no one was there. I then started to travel into the bedroom from the living room, but the strange thing is that I was hovering in a laying position on my back, about 2 feet off the ground. Once I got closer to the bed, my hovering body was trying to maneuver around it. It felt like I had most control of my body, but I also felt like another force pulling me with it. Then, my body hit the bed frame and I fell to the carpet. That's when I woke up. I didn't feel groggy at all. I was fully awake and conscious, just moments after the dream. Realizing where I was after the dream, I relaxed and looked out the window up at the stars. That's when I saw it. It was off in the distance, above the tree line. There was a green light in the sky, sitting still. I first thought it was an airplane or a colorful bright star amongst the bunch. Then it started to move in swaying patterns, going back and forth, up and down, almost like a bird playing in the wind. I didn't feel alarmed at all while watching it, but more or less intrigued since I couldn't catch a pattern in its movement. It was all over the place, and eventually I started feeling a little uncomfortable because I started thinking exactly back on my dream, and I couldn't rationally think what exactly was in the sky besides maybe a UFO or something. I tried closing my eyes to fall back asleep, but I kept looking back. It was still doing the same thing. That's when I gave up and turned on my side away from that window. I bought a Ouija board on Amazon. I'm kind of a skeptical person. If a door moves, I would say it's the air, or something logical. But I do believe there's spirits, I just don't think they're just going to chat with me through a board game, or move things to scare me. I've played several times now, maybe 7 times. I like to always follow the rules, and it really has worked out for me. But I do have had some really scary experiences. A couple months ago, I decided to play in my beach house where I don't usually stay, so I thought it was fine since it's not my actual home. I do love that beach house. Me and my brothers would always be there watching TV during the day, and then leaving at night to our home. I was always scared of leaving the beach house too, late since it gave me a weird scary vibe, and I was a little girl at the time. Anyway, I had 2 friends that were down to play with me, so we did. My brother, who was currently living there at the time, wasn't there, so we decided to go and play. We went to the bedroom and we all sat on the floor, ready to play. I'm always the one who asks the questions, so I started off by asking if there was any spirits with us. I tried asking a few times, but there was no response. I tried other questions like, can we play? Are you here? What's your name? But it wouldn't give any answers. I thought maybe asking if he/she was scared, so I did. The planchet started to move slowly to yes, and from there, we started to get answers. I asked if it was a girl or boy who I was talking to. He said yes to boy. Then I asked if he knew my name, and he answered yes. I told him if he could spell it on the board, and the planchet started to move slowly to where the letters are. He pointed. M-I. My name is Mika, M-I-K-A. and then stopped. I thought it was strange, but I continued anyway. I asked if he knew my family, starting from my mom, and he spelled her name right. Then my brother. He moved the planchet to M-I-G-U-E, which is the nickname his friends gave him. As soon as he said that, I realized I could be talking to a person I actually knew who passed away just a couple months ago from that time. My friends were all scared and everyone was feeling really tense, and we all almost felt weak. I decided I need to ask if he was the person I thought he was. So I asked, "Are you Jesus?" And he slowly dragged the planchet to yes. I was shocked. I couldn't believe I was actually talking to him. My friends were really confused about it, and I told them the story. Jesus was my brother's best friend. He committed suicide after he had fought with my brother and his girlfriend that same day. My brother felt bad that they fought, so he decided to go to his house and apologize. When he got there, he noticed there was an ambulance and her mom crying outside of the house. He never got to apologize, and my brother always felt guilty of what happened to him. My friends were really scared. I asked him if he was okay, and he said no. I asked him if he was scared. He said yes, really fast. We asked him where he was, and he said dark place. I asked him if there was any more spirits in the house. He said yes. I then asked if they were good or bad, and he said bad. Then he said to not play again. I was about to ask another question when the doorknob made a really loud sound and scared the shit out of us three. I went to open the door, and it was only my brother. He saw the Ouija and laughing said, "Why are you guys playing with that crappy game here?" I told him what had happened and he laughed. He then said he wanted to watch us play. So he sat on a chair beside us and started to ask questions again. I asked my brother if he wanted me to ask something for him. He still didn't believe it was him, so he said, "Ask him what was the name of his last girlfriend he had." I didn't know him that much, and my friends didn't know him at all. Only my brother knew the answer, and he wasn't even sitting on the floor playing with us. A couple of seconds passed, and the planchet started to move and spelled the name Gabby. I didn't know if it was actually right. I looked at my brother, and he was just as shocked as I was when I found out it was his best friend. None of us could believe that maybe the Ouija was actually real. We continued to play, and I asked if he had anything to say to my brother. He slowly answered, saying the word, "sorry." Me and my friends saw his reaction to the answer he gave. My brother was about to cry. You could see his eyes were watery. So I decided to end the session. It was actually the first time when the spirit let me end the session on the first try. It felt real, and I could say it was one of the best and scariest sessions ever. My grandma has lived in a house for some years now. A little over 10 years, I think. Well, it's haunted. A little about my grandmother. She's very old school, crazy religious, and doesn't believe in anything that doesn't coincide with the Bible. For example, ghosts, spirits, etc. So in other words, she has no safe haven when it came to experiences I had while living with her. One instance I remember very clearly was a night I stayed up a little later than usual, having just earned the right to do so from my grandma, who had my siblings and I on strict bedtime schedules during school nights. It was maybe 11 p.m. and I turned my TV off to go to bed. At this point, I still slept with my light on because I had an irrational fear of the dark until about 15. After the TV was off, I rolled over, facing away from it. No more than 10 seconds after closing my eyes, I hear clear as day directly in my ear, a whisper, "Hey, I have to tell you something." I shot my eyes open, heart beating out of my chest, and just started bawling. I was shaking, crying, and my first instinct was to run to my grandmother's room. She could see I was genuinely distressed, although I didn't bother explaining what happened because I knew she would call it nonsense. She offered to let me sleep with her, but I chose to go back because I knew she wouldn't understand what I had been through. There was never been another instance like this where I heard a voice. Although years before this had happened, my family returned home one evening and my mom went to the back to the master bathroom and came out crying because she heard someone say her name, which is a very specific name that's difficult to pronounce. Another case was an experience of my sister's. My two younger sisters' school got out earlier than mine, so my older younger sister would watch her youngest sister until I got home to watch both. Well, my youngest sister had to take a nap after school every day, or she was a grumpy mess. So my sister had put her down one afternoon and was sitting with her friend in the living room, watching TV. All of a sudden, she sees our younger sister run from the bedroom around the hallway corner to the bathroom. My sister gets up from the couch to go scold her and even turns the corner yelling her name, telling her to get back into bed. Nobody was there. She turned around and opened the door to see my sister, asleep and snoring. There were countless nights I could hear boots walking heavily in the hallway near the bedrooms. My papa wears work boots and gets in late, so I would always think it was him, except he never would be so inconsiderate to almost stomp around late at night as the steps would. There was several times I would hear the heavy steps thinking my papa was home, so I would open my bedroom door to greet him and be met with an empty, pitch-black hallway. We always heard our names being called. Everyone in the house experienced this, even my grandmother. We would all hear each other in the room opposite of the house from the room that we were in, calling our name. I remember one instance I heard my grandmother call my name, and she's not one you can answer yes from where you are. If she called you, you were being summoned. I ran from my room to where she was, sitting in the office at the other end of the house, and asked what she needed. She looked confused and said I didn't call you, but I swore it was clear as day and in her voice. This also happened to her with her walking into my room one day saying, "What?" in a pseudo-annoyed voice. I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "You didn't call me?" Those could have been disregarded as coincidences, but everyone who's been in that house has had this happen to them. I no longer live with my grandmother, although she still lives in that house. There's also a strong negative energy that could be felt in that house. It's almost as if it depresses anyone who is there for an extended period of time. But as soon as you leave the house, you feel the difference in how uplifted you feel. The house is only 70 years old, so I'm not sure what could be the explanation for the weird things going on in that house. Any similar experiences with a presence you know in your home? So, a couple of years ago, I lived in this old house. Me and my roommate had the bedrooms upstairs, but we had a guest bedroom downstairs. It was off the dining room and the door to it was close to the one bathroom in the house. So I'd have to pass by the room every time I went to the bathroom. We'd typically leave the door closed since no one stayed there regularly. There was something creepy about the room, a sort of vibe that just gave you the heebie-jeebies. And periodically you would see the door inexplicably open. But that's far from the worst of it. Now, my roommate has a small dog named Gigi, and she would constantly stare at that room. Whether the door was open or closed, she'd look there and get nervous, sometimes whine and shimmy uncomfortably. I'm not talking like a glance, but sit and stare right at the doorway for like 15 minutes at a time. We'd say for her to come away or to try to call her, but she would nervously sit there, still staring. This happened dozens of times. One night, I woke up and had to go to the bathroom. So I go downstairs and the door to the guest bedroom is closed. As I'm washing my hands, I hear a noise again. It's an old house and there's a dog, so it wasn't out of the ordinary. I walk outside and head for the stairs, and the bedroom door is now wide open. The bedroom is right outside the bathroom, so it's close. In the doorway, I catch a glimpse of a tall white figure standing in the doorway, only about a foot from me. As soon as my eyes meet with it, it suddenly vanishes. The house was pitch dark, save for the light in the upstairs hallway, and there were no cars that passed that would have made any light. Besides, the blinds were all closed anyway. Not to mention the door opened while I was in the bathroom. It was definitely closed. Again, I had to walk past it to get to the bathroom. Luckily, I don't live there anymore, but the dog didn't stop staring at that doorway till we moved and has never done anything like it since. So, some background. This was about 5 years ago, but I've just discovered this sub to post it. Me and my mom were driving back from the airport after a holiday. It was around 1:30 in the morning and there was barely any traffic on the road, except for a big truck a ways behind us. So we're driving and we see something in the road ahead. Not a car. We both spot it, and first we think it's a person picking up litter or something in the middle of the motorway. And then, closer, we thought it was a woman with a child on the floor. We got close enough to see what it actually was. An older, maybe 50-year-old woman in a nightgown, holding an old-time oil lamp and walking a small dog. Me and my mother both saw the exact same thing, and our stories are both the same to this day. The strangest part is that we passed slowly and almost stopped, and she waved at us, as if to say thanks for stopping. But the big truck that was behind us did not stop, not even slow down, no beeping or anything. We called the police because we were concerned that she was a mental patient or something. But then we realized that she had an old-fashioned lamp and a dog. How could it be a mental patient? To this day, we are convinced it was a spirit. No one linked to either of us, but just a spirit. We also don't think it was a bad ghost because she smiled and waved as we passed. But what do you think? I wrote about this place before. I said I'd try and get some evidence on camera or something. I tried and nothing showed up or anything. I gave up trying due to a health condition I have that got a bit worse. I'll just put this out there if you read this. I don't like anything paranormal. I'll watch all the TV shows like Paranormal Witness or even Paranormal Survivor. I love them. I just don't like anything like that is happening to me. Anyway, over the years that have passed, my nan's mind started to go. She started seeing things more and more, and my family were all saying that she's getting dementia, which I believe too. One night, we got a phone call that she was found by the police, walking the streets, holding a clock. It was the start of her getting dementia. She got worse and worse as the months passed and had to be put in a nursing home, which meant we all had to get her possessions from her house and take them to her new residence. I hated it. I've never liked that house, and it always seemed like somebody was watching you. While we were getting all of her stuff, which it took approximately 4 days, weird things started happening. Like boxes that were stacked, maybe 3 cardboard boxes on top of each other. The size you would get if you got a PC, of course. The top one would fall, but it wouldn't land next to where it should have. It was maybe 2 to 3 feet away from the other 2 boxes. And this didn't happen just once. It happened 6 times. Each time the box would land facing up. My dad, who doesn't believe in anything paranormal, just brushed it off as the boxes being uneven with the stuff inside. Yeah, okay, I'll go with that. On the 3rd day of moving her stuff, we had to carry the sofa and armchair out. So me and my dad were lifting it, and my uncle was in another room, wrapping ornaments in newspaper. As we were getting ready to lift it, my dad's face turned white, and he nodded in the direction of the armchair. There was an imprint in it that looked like somebody was sitting on it and leaning on the arm part. The leather was moving. Not a lot, only slightly. But that was enough for my dad to walk out of the house. He said he needed fresh air. We went outside and were talking about it, and I was bragging like, "See? Do you believe this house is effed up now?" He tried to brush it off as maybe one of us had sat on it and it was moving back to its original position. As we were standing outside, I was smoking and just happened to look up. The blinds upstairs moved, like somebody was watching us and then moved away. My dad didn't see it again and tried to say there was a rational explanation. The 4th day was the last day I spent in that house, and it was the worst time of my life. We were in my nan's bedroom and had moved her bed and wardrobe out. My dad and uncle grabbed the wardrobe and moved it out into the van. Then came the words I'll never forget. "You stay here while we take this. Put all the clothes into bin bags, please." Oh no. I walked up those stairs like I was walking to the electric chair. I walked into my nan's room and I closed the door. I had already seen shadows and other things walking past doorways over the years I'd been there, and didn't want to see another one. I was in her room packing her stuff away, and thinking of how she won't ever remember who I am, or that she's my nan. I packed 3 bags to the point they were almost bursting and sat on the bed. Then I heard noises like somebody was in the attic moving around. My stomach felt like it was turning and my heart was beating so fast. Then I heard what sounded like talking from the next room. It wasn't loud, it was like whispering, but sounded normal. I can't really explain it. It was just one voice talking, but sounded like it was having a conversation. It was a male voice. I listened to that voice for about 20 to 30 seconds and then it stopped. I couldn't make out anything it had said except, "There's no point," and "Just leave her over there." A few weeks passed and I had visited my nan in the nursing home. She didn't remember who I was, but I'd still say, "Hello, are you okay today?" Her response was always the same. "Yeah, I'm okay." Except this day I had said good morning, and she said, "Anthony, where have you been? It's late." I felt so happy knowing she remembered my name for that one day. As time has gone on, she's got worse and she tells me things about the house and other things, but I don't know if it's just because of the dementia or if it's true. Anyway, sorry for the long post. I could make it a list of the things that me and other people have seen, heard, and felt in that house. The vibe of it was just so depressing, like you were constantly being watched.